Okay, we're gonna get started now. Welcome everybody to the UIC Latinx Students Abroad Alumni Panel. My name is Rosalinda Almanza and I'm gonna be your host today. So a little bit about me. I am a business management major with a minor in Latino studies. We'll move to the next slide. And Latin American and Latino studies. And for the past 2 years, I've been the Study Abroad Ambassadors President, as well as a diversity peer mentor for the College of Business Administration. And then this semester, I've been the student intern for the Study Abroad office, which is how I came to create this panel. I studied abroad in the fall of 2018 through CIEE, and I went to London, Rome, and Madrid. And as a second generation Mexican-American student who has studied abroad, I understand the barriers, and I just really wanted to create a space for us to discuss these experiences together. So now I'm going to pass it over to Marley Stein, the Associate Director of the Study Abroad Office. Oh, Marley, you're still muted.
Hi, everybody. Thanks, Rosalinda. I'm Marley Stein, the Associate Director of Study Abroad, and it is my pleasure to be able to partner with Rosalinda on creating this event to help increase access to study abroad opportunities for UIC students. I studied abroad in Granada, Spain as an undergrad, and then returned to live and work in Salamanca, Spain. So I, from firsthand experience, can speak to the value of study abroad, which is what launched my career here now with all of you. I've had the pleasure of advising some of our panelists in their search for a study abroad program. And I am the advisor primarily for our programs in Europe and Central and South America. And then my colleagues on this call each advise for a different region of the world. So I look forward to hopefully advising some of the attendees today to help you find a program that fits your needs and goals in the future.
Thank you. So now I just want to take a moment to first set the scene before we begin. Although many of the themes that we're covering here today were developed with Hispanic and Latinx students in mind, this event today is intended for all UIC students who are considering studying abroad, and this is regardless of how you may self-identify. The panel today is in no way speaking for the entire community, but instead highlighting the unique experiences of students who identify as Hispanic or Latinx and have studied abroad. So then the goals and the purpose for the event today is to first create a space for Hispanic and Latino alumni students to talk about their personal, professional, and academic experiences that they've gained by studying abroad, as well as to address the important topics and concerns related to Latinx students and studying abroad. And this includes beginning the process, barriers and identity, as well as personal and academic benefits. And then finally, to support and uplift prospective Hispanic and Latinx students who are pursuing studying abroad and to increase access for us. So then next is just a brief overview of our agenda today, but I'm going to pass it back to Marley to introduce our guest speaker for today.
Thank you, Rosalinda. I am excited to introduce our guest speaker, Hernando Sevilla Garcia. He is the Senior Diversity Relations Manager at IES Abroad, one of UIC's study abroad program partners. Hernando is a leader in the field of international education in increasing access and inclusion for underrepresented students in study abroad, and has also had countless study abroad experiences of his own in Sevilla, Spain, Costa Rica, Cuba, China, and Rio de Janeiro. Quite a long list. So you can pick his brain about any of those locations as well. And so I will turn it over to Hernando now.
Thank you so much, Marley, for this opportunity. I also want to thank, obviously, the Study Abroad office at UIC, Kyle, Marley, my colleagues in that office. I want to thank you, Rosalinda, for your leadership in setting this together. And then lastly, thank Lares, Las Ganas, and the Latino Cultural Center at UIC for this wonderful event. So instead of a PowerPoint, instead of me preparing remarks, I really just wanted to share with you all my story. And towards the end, I will certainly share some resources via links, but I just wanted to share with you all a little bit about myself. And so I'll start by telling you all that I was born and raised in Cali, Colombia, the salsa capital of the world, and not the salsa that you eat, the salsa that you dance. And that's something that I'm incredibly proud of. And so I always say that I woke up today more Colombian than yesterday, and tomorrow I'll wake up more Colombian than today. And it's something I'm incredibly proud of. It's a massive part of obviously my identity. And so for those of that for those of you that may not know too much about Colombia's history, it is certainly a troubled history, but that's not all that Colombia is about. I think in this country, it's often portrayed through the Netflix show Narcos or through Pablo Escobar, and that is quite offensive, quite frankly, to what a Colombian or Colombia really stands for. And unfortunately for me, we actually had to leave the country in 2001 due to the socio-political situation in the country. And I do want to say, we were certainly myself and my family were privileged in that the conflict didn't directly um, impact us, certainly indirectly, which is obviously why we had to leave. But leaving my childhood behind, my friends, my sports team, that was something very difficult for me to come to a country where I barely knew the language. I didn't know the education system. And so, transitioning here at 10 years old was something that was definitely very, very difficult. And I think that also certainly had a lot to do with the exploration of my Latinidad, of my Latinx identity. I recall sometimes being afraid to talk Spanish to my parents when I was at my friend's house, just in fear of being, discriminated against. And again, these were my friends, and I think as I've grown older, that's something that I look back and quite frankly almost even ashamed of, because as I mentioned, being Colombiano is something that I'm incredibly proud of. It's part of my identity each and every day. And I certainly think that despite that maybe initial struggle to explore my Latinidad at first, it's something that as I've grown older is something that's contributed to both my professional and academic goals. To talk a little bit about those academic and professional experiences. So I started my undergraduate career at the University of Pennsylvania, and that was a completely a new world for me, and quite frankly, a place that I struggled, whether it was academically or mental health struggles. It simply wasn't a place for me. And so I actually ended up leaving the University of Pennsylvania and transferring to the University of Illinois, Champaign-Urbana. And actually, in between that, I had the opportunity and really the privilege to go abroad to Sevilla, Spain, which is actually part of my last name too. Fun fact, and is literally the reason why I chose Spain or Sevilla over Barcelona or Madrid. And I know this is going to sound super cheesy, and you guys have probably heard this so many times, but that study abroad experience truly changed my life in so many ways, and more importantly, it was helping me in that transition from a previous institution where I considered that diversity and inclusion were non-existent at the University of Pennsylvania, a place where mental health wasn't taken seriously, where academics was the priority. And while that's obviously important and that's why we're all in school, there's other factors to be taken into account. And so I ended up going to Sevilla, Spain. Met my best friend there, was part of a dual enrollment program at the University of Sevilla and also at the International College of Seville, and that experience really opened up my eyes to these international academic opportunities. And so then I went to started my classes at the University of Illinois and barely spent any time there because, as Marley mentioned, I spent really most of my time abroad. So I did another semester actually in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, and then did short-term programs twice in Costa Rica, in Cuba, and then in China. And so that's I say a privilege because I realize that these opportunities, not everyone has these opportunities. But when you're at an institution like UIC, and I can't speak of it as a student, but I can speak of it as a professional, these opportunities are more accessible, are more affordable. So it's certainly something to take advantage of. And so after U of I and after all those study abroad trips, to me, education has always been my passion, and my goal is to one day go back to Colombia and run for office on a campaign to expand educational opportunities. But in the meantime, I'm here in the United States, and I'm working to provide more students like myself when I was an undergrad and more students like you all these opportunities. And so I did my master's at Northwestern, which is not only is Marley a colleague, but also and wasn't a classmate of mine, but I got to learn a lot about that program through Marley. And I did a master's in higher education administration and policy. And I mentioned that again, just because education to me truly is a tool of socioeconomic mobility. For our community, for institutions like UIC, I truly believe it's such a powerful tool, and especially something like study abroad, to be able to experience another culture, to be able to experience another educational system, to meet individuals with different perspectives than our own, I think is such a great way for us to come back to our communities, to our institutions, to provide others that opportunity. And so now I work with IES Abroad, and IES Abroad is a nonprofit organization that works very closely with institutions like UIC. We have programs ranging from standard programs to virtual internships, and I'll provide a little bit more information of that through the links. But again, I really wanted to share my personal story and something that I want to tie into my professional role and to really Hispanic serving institutions like UIC. About 3-4 years ago, I launched a Hispanic serving institution specific initiative known as Tu Mundo, and that's something I'm incredibly proud to represent, to be able to carry out in my daily responsibilities, because I truly believe that HSIs are the future of higher education in this country, along with HBCUs, along with tribal colleges and universities. But I specifically mention HSIs for a couple of reasons. And the first one, again, keeping that kind of personal lens, I actually lived in Pilsen for 3 years. So, when I would have meetings with Marley, it would be fantastic to be able to get a little 30 minutes extra sleep and be able to in 7 minutes be on campus. But more importantly, because I know the community that UIC serves, right? And the thing about Hispanic serving institutions, for those of you that don't know, that's a federal designation for institutions, colleges, and universities that have a minimum of 25% Latinx enrollment. And again, I think it's incredibly important to mention, as Rosalinda did, that not only Latinx students attend these institutions, and not only Latinx students are a part of this panel. However, I think it's a critical part of a mission for an institution to truly be a Hispanic serving institution. And what I mean by that is that there are some institutions that are simply Hispanic enrolling institutions. That part of the mission isn't really to serve Latinx students. And at a place like UIC, where you all have Lares, where you all have Las Ganas, Latino Cultural Center, that shows you those are tangible ways that the institution has taken in order to bring that Hispanic serving, that word serving, into the mission. And that's also very much evident in the study abroad office. And I know Kyle, who has just recently joined, has brought a fantastic energy, and they've been doing incredible things at the UIC study abroad office. So by far one of my, HSIs are clearly my favorite institutions to work with, and UIC, from obviously having someone in my graduate program, work in that office as an assistant director, from having lived right next to UIC for 3 years. It's honestly an honor for me to be working with an institution like UIC. And so I'll wrap that up by going back. The last thing I want to share with you all, and there's 3 resources that I want to share with you all, and I'll share those via the link of this chat. The first one is a Latinx guide, student guide to global programs, which is something I co-authored with an organization known as Diversity Abroad. And actually, I'm not sure if I provided the office physical copies. There are online copies that are for a cost. However, I just saw that Cal Poly actually published all of that online. So I'm going to go ahead and share with you all for free 99 that global guide, which may not be only valuable to you all, but even to your families as well. The second resource I wanted to share with you all is information about our virtual internships, because some of you may already be considering attending programs in person, but some of you that may not necessarily be comfortable with that yet. I think virtual internships, and those are brand new for us, I think it's an incredibly accessible way to partake in international academic experience. And lastly, some information on Tu Mundo, which is the initiative that I mentioned. Basically what it is an interactive workshop that I've actually done at UIC before a couple of times in conjunction with Lattes. But what I mainly wanted to share with you all is that today, after this event, we will be giving away 3 $500 airfare vouchers as part of the Tu Mundo funding that I've been able to get over the years. And so, yeah, excited to provide that opportunity to you all. And again, thank you so much, Marley, for this opportunity, to Rosalinda, to Kyle, for all the wonderful work you're doing. And also, I usually wear long sleeve and, I try to dress all professional, but today I proudly wore my Colombian jersey just to show some love to my people. So that's it for my part. Again, thank you all so much for this wonderful opportunity and for this space to share with you all.
Thank you so much for telling us your story and for sharing your experience with us. At the end of the panel, we're going to do the raffle. It's going to Marley's going to submit your names into a random raffle website, and then we'll come up with the names and we'll announce it after the panel is complete. So now we're going to move into the questionnaire portion of the event. So can each of my panelists introduce yourself, so your name, major, and where and when you studied abroad? We'll start off first with Jocelyn.
Hi, my name is Jocelyn. I'm a bio major, like a general bio major. And I studied abroad at CIE Seoul, the summer arts program, in 2019. And I'm actually currently in the process of going back to Seoul, South Korea for the next academic year to finish off my senior year.
Thank you. And then Melissa, can you introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Melissa. I studied abroad in Seoul as well in the spring of 2020. Sorry, were we supposed to say our majors and stuff?
Yeah, your name, your major, and then when and where you studied.
My major is communications with a minor in global Asian studies. And yeah, so like I said, I studied abroad in Seoul through the CIEE program. With the pandemic, it didn't work out, but like I still like gained like all the CIE preparing me for everything, is just like as if any through the study abroad office. So, yeah.
Okay, thank you. And then Sandra.
Hi, my name is Sandra Granados. I studied abroad in Salamanca, Spain, fall 2019, and my major was criminology, law, and justice with a minor in sociology.
And then Alicia. Is she here today? Okay, I don't know if she's here today. We'll move on to the next question. How did you first become aware of study abroad, and what led you to that decision? You can share that experience with us, Jocelyn.
So I originally found out about CIE because a lot of people in my high school were doing the high school CIE programs. And since I knew like I couldn't really afford to go like out of state for college, I decided to like save all my money and pursue at least the summer study abroad so I could get sort of a taste of like if I do like Seoul, South Korea, since I am planning on like teaching English out there for a couple of years. So I just wanted to see if I actually liked it. And it was like only for like 8 weeks I was out there, and I decided I really liked this. So I wanted to pursue study abroad again because I did it so early on since I was still a freshman when I did it. And so that's how I kind of got into it.
Melissa, how did you first become aware of study abroad, and what led you to this decision?
So just through like in the university, I always saw people like announcing how they were going to study abroad, and like always thought that was like amazing. And for this particular program, I had found out through my cousin who years ago she went to UIC and did the same program, the CAE program in Seoul and Yonsei University. So I was kind of like, that's kind of what like got my attention. I was like, well, if she could do it, I could do it too. And then and yeah, and then just also through the announcements about study abroad, it kind of like made me want to do it more and everything, even though like I thought I wouldn't be able to afford it. But luckily through doing research and stuff, I found out that like it's possible.
Thank you. And then Sandra.
With me, I honestly had no idea that like I was even capable of doing this, of studying abroad. as a first generation college student, I like navigated majority of like my academic life on my own. And I remember like just like hearing people studying abroad, but I never thought that like I was capable, or even like I thought it was only like, oh, for smart people. But then I was just like, okay, like why is like everybody like studying abroad? Like even people that I knew. So then I had a meeting with my advisor, and she was just going over the courses that I needed. And I needed, I believe, certain amount of Spanish credits in order to graduate. And she brought it up to me. She was like, well, like you could also study abroad in like a Spanish speaking country. And I was like, wait, what? Like I could do that. And then I started like just researching a little bit more. And then I met with Marley, and that's when she like introduced me to like Salamanca. And that's how I found out about it.
Sandra, when you when you decided to study abroad, what were your parent or guardian's initial reaction to you going abroad? And were they against it? And what, if they were, what information or resources did you share to help convince them?
Well, at first, I feel like we were all kind of like not buying it. I was like, oh, like I remember going up to my parents and being like, oh, like I'm gonna go to Spain and like study. And my mom was like, okay, like whatever. She kind of like brushed it off. My dad did too. And I feel like it didn't hit them until like when I got the official date that I was actually going. And at first they were a little like, you're gonna go that far for that long? Like, no, like you're not gonna do it. Like they were kind of like against it, but then I started explaining to them. And then I also just like, I was researching like just photos on Google of like how Salamanca looked and just like YouTube videos. And I was just showing them like, oh, look, like this looks like Mexico, like La Catedral, and this looks like this. And they're like, okay, like they started like kind of like being a little bit more okay with it. It definitely did take them a little bit, but I feel like at the end, they realized that it was like for the best thing, just like for my education. So they kind of like, I don't know, they went for it. Once they saw that I was actually like, I'm going, like there's no turning back.
I think I had a similar experience as you. It took planting the seed very early for them and then talking about it a lot and sharing just the whole process of it, and that I was going to be safe there and I was going to be
Right.
fine.
Yeah.
Were okay with it. Melissa, what was this experience for you?
I think the best way I could describe my parents' reaction was that they were apprehensive yet supportive. They kind of like were just like scared of the worst and everything. They're like, oh, what if you get kidnapped and stuff like that, you know, the regular like fears and stuff like that. But my parents have always like been supportive of my education, so they were like, okay, well, if this is like an educational opportunity, like they're gonna be a bit more leaning towards it. And same as much, they were more supportive as when I showed more information about the program or like pricing and like how I could be able to afford it. They were definitely more on board, and they just, yeah, they were at the end, they just said, okay, do whatever you want.
Jocelyn, how was this experience for you?
For me, it was more easy to convince my mom since it was only for 2 months and it was during the summer. So she was kind of like, oh, whatever. But I know like once I left, she was kind of like, oh, you're really gone. Like you're gonna be gone for a while. So I think because it was also like pre-pandemic, it was like she was kind of like, oh, whatever. Like I still have to go to work. I still have things to do. And so she was kind of more fine with it. But I know as of now, like with the pandemic going on and with the fact that I'm going to be leaving for like almost a year, she's very like hesitant. But I knew by going to study abroad for the whole summer, like last time, it was kind of like, oh, look, I've been here before. Like I know my way around. Like I know some people there. Like I'm not going to be totally by myself. And so she's kind of still iffy about it. She's like, oh, I don't know. But like, I know she'll be kind of like convinced after like, I kind of like tell her more and more like, oh, I'm actually studying abroad. Like, it's happening again. Like, it's fine. We're like, I'm going to be fine. I'll make sure to call you. So it's kind of like the fact that I was able to study abroad before and she was fine with it. It's kind of like different now because my mom spends a lot of time at home now because of the pandemic. So that's something you kind of have to take into to account now is like, oh, like my presence of being gone is more noticeable than it was before. And I'm going to be gone for longer, especially like if you guys are doing like a semester one, it's like, oh, you're kind of missing holidays with them. And I know like for my family, like we take holidays very seriously, like it's very family oriented, and like being able to see like family from all over the country and like from Mexico, it's like very important to us to see each other during those times. So I know like with that fact, like she is gonna like be very like hesitant, like, oh, like I don't know what to do without you during the holiday season. So it's still like a process to convince. And I feel like that is something like you should like kind of understand, like this is what you're gonna need to prepare for when you go out.
What were the like any professional academic benefits did you gain when like after going abroad, Jesslyn?
Since it was like very short, like I was able to like sort of get it along very well with like the CIE staff. So I know Suzanne, like she was very nice in helping me, because I kept mentioning to her and this other guy, Teddy, like the coordinators, like, oh, I really want to come back. Like, this is my plan. Like in the next year, I hope you guys see me again. But with like the pandemic, it was kind of like harder. But I know the fact that I was able to like kind of put my face in the office a lot with CIE and kind of like tell them like, this is my plan and like I'm coming back. I was able to sort of like get myself a feel around during the summer and kind of tell them like, I am a bio student, so hopefully like I know what kind of courses they're having. I'll be able to come back and like do more major courses while I'm out there and still learn the language. So I was able to kind of like set myself in that fact. And then since CIE does do an English program to teach English abroad, I was able to sort of like say, this is my interest, you guys do it, I hope it works out. And I was able to talk to them about it too, since one of the program, Teddy, he was telling me how he came to the US to sort of learn English. So he said that the program he was in, they also did the opposite, where you could go to Korea and teach English. So it was like nice being able to talk to people and sort of see like what like South Korea is and what like their kind of like political stands are and stuff. So to see if I would be comfortable staying out there for so long. So that was like a lot of just sort of personal growth, trying to like see if I'm personally compatible with my environment. Like I remember that was a big thing. And then now it's more going to be professional.
Thank you for sharing. Sandra, how do you feel that you grew like personally and as well as professional and academic benefits that you gained after your time abroad? Are you still muted?
Yeah, sorry. So I definitely gained confidence academically, just because I feel like growing up, I wasn't a good test taker. And going to Spain, well, I came to the United States when I was like 7. So I never really got the chance to actually like learn in my native language. So going to Spain and learning in Spanish, it made me realize that like at the end of the day, it's not the fact that I was like just this horrible test taker. It was just so much harder for me to like grasp to like information in English. So then going to Spain, like I learned new ways to like study when it came down to like tests, exams, or like how to actually sit there and understand it in a different manner. And I remember coming back and seeing like a huge difference in like my grades when it came down to like my taking skills. And I was just like, oh my gosh, like this whole time it was just because like my native language was like it's Spanish. Like I also just looked at myself as like not smart, because I feel like just like in the how like school works, it's like if you don't score good in like tests and all of that, it's just like you're looked at as like not a failure, but like less smart. And professionally, it definitely did leave a strong mark in my resume. And the experience just abroad, it just left me with so much wisdom that like the recent job, I'm currently working for Google, and one of the questions that they asked me was like, what's something that like made you grow? And it was like basically a big impact of your life. And I was able to share something that happened to me abroad. So I feel like that was just like studying abroad it was just so amazing because it like gave me opportunities to be somewhere in life that I never thought I would be. And it just made me grow as a person.
Thank you. I feel like it sounds cliche, but you really do like come back like a better person, like a different person. And like for me, the personal benefits and like the growth I had from going abroad was like the best.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah. And
part
I
of-
always share that, like, even with like my family members that like can't study abroad anymore. I always tell them like it's so cliche, but it's honestly like one of the best things that you could possibly like ever do in your life. Like I'm like, you can like I'm just like there's times where it's like I just can't say enough to even like describe it.
Yeah, I see all of us flourish from going abroad, and that's why I want to make like I want more people like us to go. Melissa, would you be able to share your experience of like how you grew personally as well as professional and academic benefits?
Well, through like personally, I feel like I learned how to be like independent in a way, like especially with the pandemic was going on at the time. I was like, it was an unexpected like hurdle in my way, but I learned how to like, you know, like stay calm and like learn how to overcome it and to just deal with it and like move on and like continue on with what I had. And like because of that, I had professional wise, I'd also switched to like online classes, which was new for everybody. But like over there it was like, I don't know, I was also learning a new language because I learned Korean while there. So it was kind of like I learned how to be, I guess, learned how to use Zoom in a way and like learned as a new like classroom setting. And I feel like that also helped me because it helped me learn how to communicate with my professors and like just use other forms to like make sure I was like getting the education I wanted and everything. So and then also professional wise, I think I learned like a lot of new cultural like customs and values, which I also like I'm thinking of planning to work like teach English there as well. So knowing those like values and like what's okay to do, what's not okay to do, I feel like those also help me prepare me for a professional career, whether if it's there or if it's here. Just but yeah, and also personally, I wanted to mention like just making all those new connections with people from not even just like in the country alone. Like I met so many like foreigners, so learning a bunch of new um like people from all around the world, and also like learning like uh just meeting new like learning new mindsets, like them teaching you like their customs from their countries and everything. I feel like that um added to my personal growth just because like I've always wanted to be more like open and like cultured and everything. I feel like that overall helped and everything.
Thank you guys for sharing that. Jocelyn, can you tell me about some of the barriers, if any, preventing you from pursuing studying abroad when you began the process?
Um, One of my biggest kind of barrier was kind of the financial aid and like being able to afford it, since I did originally go like to UIC because it is a commuter school. I didn't have to pay that much in tuition or anything. And so being able to study abroad, I like know I definitely had to like save a lot, especially if I wanted to enjoy myself out there and like kind of like not work for a while in order to like be in a different country. So that was like kind of my biggest barrier at the moment, since at the time I was still like a freshman, so I didn't have like a lot of courses that I had to be concerned about. Like as of now, like going like for the year, I do have to be more like conscious of like what courses am I taking? Am I filling my requirements for my major? And so that's kind of like the concern with that. And then there's also was the concern was, am I gonna make any friends out there? Am I gonna kind of like be by myself most of the time? So I know like that one's kind of scary for me because I like to kind of be reassured, like, oh, I know somebody out there, I'll be fine. Like at least I know one person. But going into the summer, like I was just like, I don't know anybody. There's nobody I really know from like CIE who's also going. So that was like kind of like a struggle at first, but like since we were in a group chat beforehand and like there was people who were kind of communicating a lot and there was people who were on the same flight as me, it was kind of nice to know like, okay, like there's at least somebody I know that's going to be on the plane, so I could talk to them beforehand. I could talk to them once we land and we'll be together to sort of navigate our way through like this huge airport. And so at first it was like kind of like, oh, like, can I actually do this financially? Then is it, can I do this socially? But like once you kind of get there and you kind of see for yourself, especially if you're kind of unsure about things beforehand, like if you like to be kind of like the person who knows what everything's happening, how everything's going, it's like it does make you very like anxious to like begin. But I can reassure you, like once you go there and like there's people who are always willing to talk, there's always people who want to become friends with you, and like that's not really an issue. And there's also like a lot of support with like the financial aid and sort of getting scholarships. So I know this year, since it is for longer and it is costs a lot, I was able to like sort of spend a lot of time during my like spring break and beforehand to kind of research scholarships and make sure that I am like financially able to be abroad for a whole year.
Thank you. I was just gonna add, I feel like all of those things I felt the same before going abroad. And I feel like at least the social aspect of it, like the scary parts, like not knowing anybody, I feel like that was one of the hardest parts, but also like the best part, because I feel like that's how I grew out of my shell, like leaving home for the first time, and becoming more independent. Sandra, would you be able to tell me some of the barriers, if any, when you were pursuing studying abroad and while you were there?
Yeah, with me, it was similar. It was like financially and socially. Financially, I just thought like I wasn't gonna be able to afford it. So I did pick up like a part-time job and I began to save money. But then like when it came down to it, I think I was more worried about like not having enough money while I was abroad than like the money that I had to pay to actually study abroad. But that actually came in like really easy as like time went by. And also just like socially, I think I was just like, it was just like the fear of the unknown. Like, what if this happens or what if that happens? And I'm so far away from home and like my parents are not going to be there to help me. Just like, and like, just like not knowing if I was capable of even like sitting there and like walking myself through something that like was, I don't know, like just like basically like I was just scared of like something big happening and not being able to like take it up on myself. And while there, I think one of the barriers and something that definitely like impacted me a little bit when I first got there was I definitely did get homesick. And at the beginning, it was harder for me to actually like find a group into where like I actually fit in. But as time went by, I think like I got homesick probably for like 3 days. And then like next thing you know, I met one person, then the other person. It was just like a big group of us. So I think that was just like one thing that definitely like at the beginning, I was just like, oh my gosh, like, why did I even come? Like I was like starting to regret it. But then I feel like everybody kind of gets like those couple of days of like being homesick. But then after that, you're just like, okay, I don't want to go. Like, I don't want to go back home.
I feel the same way. Melissa, would you be able to share your experience when it comes to barriers?
Yeah, I kind of had like the same barriers, definitely. Also adding to that was like language. Because I remember like say when I arrived, like I was like very overwhelmed by like there was like very little English like on signs and everything, like, and I had to get there to Korea alone. Like I didn't have like the program there waiting for me or anything, so it was very difficult to try and find everything. But yeah, but as I learned more and more, it was just like a bit easier to like navigate around and everything. Money definitely was a barrier. I also like picked up, I had a job at the time before studying abroad, and I would just like have a plan of how much I was gonna save each week and like have a savings account, and also like not go out at all. Like that winter before studying abroad, I did not go out for anything. I was like, I'm gonna save every penny, and it definitely helped like lessen the stress of like being able to afford even like meals while abroad or anything. Like I definitely prepared well for that, I think. And also just like another barrier is like anxiety. Like everyone has anxiety, especially in being put in a new environment. And but yeah, just like, but once you're there, like you learn how to deal with it at your own pace and everything. So it's still definitely worth it, even with the barriers and everything.
Thank you. And so continuing on talking about the challenges that we face while studying abroad, Sandra, can you please tell us about how identifying as a Latinx student impacted or affect the experiences that you had?
I keep forgetting to mute myself. I think it definitely like impacted me, but like in a positive way. Just like I said, like previously, it made me realize that like it was just harder for me to like learn like terms in English and not sit there and consider myself like less smart in comparison to others just because like my test taking skills were not so great. And something else that definitely like it impacted me in a positive way is just learning so much from like just about Spain and like about all the history and how it kind of like just trickles down to like Mexico in a way. So just like even teaching my parents and things and just my family members and friends.
Jocelyn, would you be able to tell us how identifying as a Latinx student impact your time abroad?
It was kind of like weird at first, since like I was in like South Korea, like an Asian country, and a lot of the people on the study abroad, like with CIE, like who I kind of spend a lot of time with, were like of like different cultural backgrounds. And so when I was like kind of in a group, like it was like nice that everybody had a different cultural identity. So at first going abroad, like being like one of the one or like there was like two other people who were like identify as like Latinx, it was kind of like hard because I was like, oh, like there's not a lot of like Latinx people here. Like there's not a lot of people who kind of understand like what I'm missing, what I like don't like have here, like I used to have in like here in Chicago, where like there's a huge Mexican community. So at first I was kind of like, oh, this is like very difficult, like there's nobody there I can relate to as often. But since like I was in a friend group that was kind of like more diverse, like we all came from different parts of the country, we all had different cultural backgrounds, it was kind of nice because then I was like, oh, like this is me as like a Latina, like this is my experience, this is how I'm kind of viewing things. And like I know me and like my really good friend who I met out there, we would both kind of relay that. I'll be like, oh yeah, like I know like this, like I miss this, or like this kind of reminds me of like Mexican culture while I was out there. And she'd be like, yeah, like this reminds me of Atlanta. Like this is how I perceive things. So it was kind of nice to be like, oh, like I have my own experiences, though there's not many people who are like me out there. I was kind of able to set myself up as like a Latina out there. I was like, oh, this is how I view things. This is how I am coming and then taking this kind of experience in. Cause I was really involved with like the study program as like kind of like, what can I make this for me? And at first I was conscious of others, but then I kind of made it as my own. And I was like, this is like kind of like how I want to set myself apart and like use what I know to kind of better myself out there and kind of aid to like what I can find as beneficial out there for me.
Thank you. Melissa, would you be able to share about this? And then I wanted to bring it to Hernando too, to share his experience as a Latinx student going abroad.
For me, I definitely like had the same experience as Jocelyn. Like I definitely realized that there's not many people that look like me. And because I was like online classes and everything, I kind of had to make the best of it myself and like venture out and make friends. And like I was even more scared about that because it's like you don't have like the program to back you up, or like the events that the CIE would hold and stuff like that. So I had like I was blessed to find like a good like friend group that like were like foreigners, and I would just like kind of like go like adventure out with them instead, like, because I didn't have like, you know, a set schedule or anything. So I kind of like took that up with them, and like they were all very like because we were all foreigners, it was like it helped me not to feel too different, like especially in like public places and everything. But as by identifying as Latinx, I feel like um and for me, I was like very like proud to be there. Like I was very like felt very like, oh, I had the opportunity to be here, and like I'm gonna make the most of it. Like I feel like it's very much a thing that you should be proud of, like when studying abroad, especially as Latinx, because it's like you know, not many people have the opportunity, but it is possible. And um yeah, I feel like in Korea there was many people were open to foreigners. But also I would definitely advise to like do your research, especially like there's a lot of YouTube videos and everything of people's experiences. And I think that also helps you understand like kind of like how being a foreigner will affect you while abroad. Or like to keep in mind, there are good things to keep in mind, such as that um like I know in my like when I did research, I would find things as like, oh, like Koreans like foreigners, but they usually like Eurocentric features or stuff like that. And it's very much real, but like I feel like you just gotta make the most of it, and like kind of like even if you see those type of things, you just gotta keep going. Like, okay, like that's not gonna affect your study abroad experience. And just and also like if you're ever feeling like I remember I would also feel homesick about like, you know, my mom's cooking, or like just like I live in a very like Latinx area, a west suburb, and like I would just always try to find like things that remind me of home, like restaurants. There's definitely restaurants for like all types of like Latin cultures. And so yeah, you could definitely find a bit of home somewhere else. So if you're ever feeling homesick.
No, Melissa, I love that you brought up feeling proud to be there. I know I felt empowered, like in my program and being there, because they're specifically for me, like where I went and the program I was in, or just the track I was on, there was like not that many people who had similar backgrounds as me. And when I first arrived to London, there were only 2 other students who were Mexican. And we definitely clung to each other right away. Like we found community with each other. But Hernando, if you're able to share about like some of the challenges you face as identifying as a Latinx student.
Yeah, absolutely, Rosalina. And thanks for, I think, an incredibly important question. For me, you know, I specifically chose to go to Spain because I wanted to explore the colonization of my country by that country, right? And that was very difficult to have those conversations with professors that have been teaching, right? That have been teaching the curriculum from the Spanish perspective, whereas I was going to always push back and was always going to provide my perspective as a Colombian citizen. And so I certainly think academically, you know, it was certainly challenging to explore something I intentionally wanted to, whereas, you know, I was studying at this university that's been around for centuries, and where the perspective has been singular in teaching, right, those students from the Spanish perspective. So I certainly think while that was a challenge, it was something I was also very much intentional for me. In terms of, you know, just being out and about, you know, whether it was playing sports or whether it was, you know, going out and oftentimes in a place like Spain, you know, and again, this is one of my favorite countries. It shaped me for the rest of my life. You know, hearing the term sudaca or sudaco, which is a derogatory term for how we are called, for Latin Americans are called. So, you know, and I share that not to, you know, scare anyone away from Spain or anything like that, but just to provide, you know, these are some things that happen. But as some of the students that have also mentioned, you know, creating that sense of community, not only, you know, even though you may only have 1 or 2 participants that identify like you as Latinx in those programs, you know, there are also ways to be able to create that community back home, right? Whether that is through the support of your study abroad providers, whether that's IES Abroad, CIEE, whether, again, for you all, LADIS, Las Ganas, Latino Cultural Center, I guarantee you that that's an incredible community, an incredible support system that an institution like UIC is able to provide you all while you're abroad. And ultimately, I think both Rosalinda and Melissa touched upon this, being proud and owning up to that identity. I think there's so much power in that, right? Not allowing other people to define you, being proud of who we are, of our community back home, of our families. And we're not there to teach other people, right, how to be anti-racist, for example. That's an individual's duty. But what we can do is to be able to share, the beauty of our communities, the beauty of where we come from, and really just being proud of that.
Thank you so much. Just to close off the question portion, I just want to ask each of you, what advice would you give to other Hispanic and Latinx students who are thinking about studying abroad or want to? I'll start off first with Melissa.
I definitely think advice I would give to prospective study abroad students that are Latinx is like, don't be scared, and like basically like it's okay to be uncomfortable. Like don't shy away just because like you think you can't afford it or like you think it's too hard. Like that's there's so many resources at UIC that will help you with that that will be the least of your worries probably, like at the end, because there's so many opportunities to fund and everything, and also like advising itself, like you could go with them with any questions. So it's like there definitely is possibilities for you, as well as like this is again, like it's gonna sound cheesy, like you won't regret it, like you're definitely gonna get something out of it. But then again, like to remember is like you're gonna get from this experience as much as you put in. So don't don't be like secluded or anything. Like definitely branch out, because yeah, I feel like you can definitely get a lot from an experience like this.
Thank you. And Jocelyn?
I agree, like definitely with branching out, because I was very shy in the beginning. And so I definitely recommend like being able, like if somebody wants to talk to you, like be open to talking to people and stuff. I know like as I like progressed through like the study abroad and when I came back, like a lot of people did say like, oh, like you've changed, like you've grown out of your shell. But I do like advise like when you are going to this study abroad, like this is a country like you definitely want to learn a lot from, because you chose this place for a reason. And so don't kind of lose sight of like who you are, and like definitely be like respectful and sort of like reflect on everything like as if you were to invite somebody to your own culture. Like that's like sort of like the advice I have for people who are going to like sort of a country that is not like Latinx or anything, like, or like to Spain and stuff, because that's like something you kind of have to like understand. Like you're going to probably a homogenous country that doesn't really have what you are used to experiencing. So like when you're going to those countries, make sure, like I would say, bring a little piece of home with you. I'm definitely gonna bring like a lot of like snacks from like home, and like I told my mom to make me like enchiladas so I could take onto the plane. Like definitely bring a little bit of home with you, but also make sure like you are like enjoying the host country that you're going to.
Thank you so much. I know we're going a little bit over, and I'm sorry, I just wanted to get these questions in, but a big thank you to Jocelyn, Sandra, and Melissa, and Hernando too for answering these questions and being here today, and everyone who's come to support. So now we're gonna move into the raffle for the flight vouchers and pass it back to Marley. Thank you guys. Thank you so much. I don't know if you're meant to be muted or not, Marley. Oh, you're still, I don't know if you're talking, you're still muted.
Okay, sorry about that, everybody. I've entered all of your names in here. If you are not a student, unfortunately, you are not eligible for the voucher. So I'm just going to run it and see Jerry Mejia. Jari, I might have spelled that wrong actually. You are our first winner. So if you are selected, please, I will put my email in the chat. Please follow up with me via email that you are a winner, and we will coordinate how you will receive the voucher via email. So I'm just down. Congratulations. Next is Nayeli Jim. You are the next winner. And the last, a blank, just trying to mess with us. And the last one is Ashley Cruz. So the three of you are winners of a $500 voucher sponsored by IES Abroad through STA Travel. We will follow up with you to confirm eligibility and that you in fact can receive this scholarship, and I'm excited to see how you will put it to good use. Moving on, congrats everybody. I wanted to address the number of questions that are in the chat. Since a lot of them were coming pretty quick, I couldn't talk to all of those questions. So some of those were related to scholarships, picking a program, and COVID-19 updates. So before I dive deep into how to use our website as a resource to answer some of your questions, I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Kyle Rush, the Executive Director of Study Abroad, to give you an update on what study abroad might look like in the COVID-19 era.
Thanks, Marley. And before I begin, I just want to give my heartfelt thanks to Hernando and our panelists and Rosalinda. This was a phenomenal session, and I know I learned a lot as an international educator myself about just the thoughts and expectations and challenges that our Latinx students face. So thank you again for sharing your stories with us. So in terms of COVID-19 and study abroad, unfortunately, as you all might know, we have had to pause study abroad for the moment due to some risk concerns related to the global pandemic situation. Unfortunately, study abroad will not be occurring for this summer. However, we're hopeful that with vaccines being rolled out right now, that we might be able to return to study abroad by the fall. We've set the date of May 28th as our decision date. So that's when we're hoping to announce whether or not the university will be able to support the resumption of study abroad. And just so you're aware of what we're using to make our decisions, the Department of State is a really important resource for us because they provide travel warnings and advisories for every country of the world. So we're paying close attention to that. And in addition, of course, the CDC also has their advisories. So we're monitoring that as well as many other resources. So it's one of those tricky situations where things are changing every day, it seems. And so we're just having to stay abreast. And once we feel certain that the situation in countries is such that would allow students to study abroad safely, I can assure you that all of us in the Study Abroad office are eagerly waiting that moment. So we'll make sure to communicate that out. But in short, what that means for you is if you're interested in studying abroad, you don't have to wait. Come talk to us, get on our website, start researching the funding resources we've mentioned today. Don't delay in starting that conversation, because now is actually a really great time to lay the foundation, get your plan together. That way, when we can flip the switches back on, so to say, you're ready to go. So I hope that helped address that question. And sorry, Marley, if I just may, because I'm going to have to dip out soon for another meeting, but I know a couple people asked me to comment on the notion of decolonizing study abroad. I wasn't anticipating this for the session, but I love that someone brought that up because it's something that I've been thinking about a lot the past few years in the field of study abroad. And so I think this is the notion just that we want to think about our identities in all forms, but certainly as young students coming from the United States and the privileges we bring and how that might shape and color the interactions we're having with locals depending upon where in the world we go. And especially if you're planning on going to a country that maybe was a former colony of the US or British Empire or even the global South. There's really interesting notions of power dynamics. And something I think about that we try and do with our students with regards to our pre-departure orientations is encouraging students to reflect on the identities that they have, the intersectionalities that they bring with them when they study abroad. and to engage in thoughtful and meaningful dialogue with their locals, and to think about the ways in which they do travel while they're abroad. You know, whether you're a tourist or a student studying abroad, there are ethical and responsible ways that you can go about traveling while you're on site. And so one of the ways in which we try and curtail that is by being thoughtful in the program partners we choose, such as IES Abroad, for instance. And so if this is something you're interested in, I could talk at length about it. I read articles and have been collecting those and webinars. So if you would like to learn more, I definitely have some things I can share with you. So again, I'll put my email address in the chat. But thanks for bringing up that important topic.
Thank you, Kyle, for answering those questions that we saw in the chat. So a couple questions that I received were in regards to scholarships and just picking a program. And I think that our website is a really great place to start when you want to study abroad, but you're not really sure where you want to go or what resources are available. Maggie just highlighted our First Steps program, which is a requirement that all students go through that. You might have done this in your LAS first year seminar or another first year seminar, but if you haven't, there are two ways that you can do it. You can attend a First Step session either if you go to First Steps, either by watching a video online or to schedule your First Steps, which is live with Maggie Miller, who is our study abroad advisor, who can answer any questions. And that's a really great overview about what scholarships are available, financial aid, how that works, using the program search feature, advising resources, considering studying abroad for credit for your major or general education requirements. That's a good first step. So I mentioned that there is a program search feature, and this is currently slightly in construction, so it's going to be really wonderful in about 3 months. But for now, it is just a great landing point that you can takes a moment to load. We have 200 plus programs and tracks, but this is a great way that you can search by country. You can search by term, so maybe spring break, summer. You can search by type of program, so exchange, faculty directed, etc. And you can actually even search by language of instruction. One thing to note that you can study abroad pretty much anywhere, and there is an option for you to take all your courses in English. If you did want to take your courses in Spanish or Korean or any other language, that also is an option. So that's, you can also search sort of by topic. So if you're looking for a virtual opportunity in the COVID era, an internship or research and community engagement abroad, these are a couple of resources that we have sort of highlighted out for you. The other great resource is our funding resources page. And this sort of walks through how to conceptualize the affordability of study abroad and the value add of study abroad in terms of an investment in your future. So we use this as a landing page. You can have one of our, you can read a quote from a student if you want more perspective other than the great testimonials you heard today. Financial aid, so how your financial aid works. All financial aid for semester programs does travel with you. There are some exceptions to that, but we have a designated financial aid advisor who walks students through how their package will be adjusted or may be adjusted for their semester abroad. For summer programs, it's just federal aid that's available to students. And then scholarships. So we recognize that study abroad, depending on the program you pick, might be an added cost to what you are traditionally used to paying here at UIC, primarily because of the added cost of room and board. We know the majority of our students are commuter students, so you're taking on that added cost. And so scholarships can kind of help meet that difference. This is our scholarships page. It is ever growing. We're really excited about that. I want to first highlight our newest scholarships, the Chancellor's First Gen Flames Abroad scholarships for any student here on this call that is a first generation college student, but also a first year student. And so this is meant as a planning scholarship. So you would receive the scholarship early on in your undergraduate experience, and you would have it to apply to a UIC sponsored program at some point during your your college education. So the deadline for that is quickly approaching. It's April 15th. You can apply in SNAP. So if you're not sure, go ahead, just apply, because you never know what the outcome will be. And then we have a number of UIC-based scholarships. So either through our office, the Honors College, LAS, different departments on campus, and they each have different eligibility criteria. So look through those. Those can be applied to any of our partner programs. And then academic partners. So IES is one of our academic partners that runs study abroad programs for US students throughout the country. But we also have a number of other partners as well who have special scholarship agreements with our office. So those are scholarships only for UIC students pursuing study abroad on one of those programs. And then there's also a ton more through the individual partners. And the last one that I want to particularly highlight, there are so many, I'm not touching on all of them, is the Gilman International Scholarship. This is for Pell recipients. Pell recipients or Pell eligible students. So you need to receive the scholarship either the semester going abroad, the Pell, or the semester before. And so this is anywhere from $3,000 to $8,000 if you actually apply for the critical language grant. And this can be applied to any study abroad program provided it's affiliated with UIC. It's a national scholarship, but preference is given to students who attend a public state institution as well as an HSI that Hernando went over a little bit. So I highly encourage you to apply. We consistently have UIC winners. So just because it's a national scholarship and there's more applicants does not mean that that decreases your chances in any way. So definitely apply. And also a number of other partners give added scholarships for students who just take that chance and go ahead for the national, to try to apply for the national scholarship. So that's a little bit about our scholarship page. And the last thing I will show you all is making an appointment with all of the advisors. So myself, Arena, Kyle, Maggie, and Crystal, those are our advisors, and we work pretty collaboratively, but we each have, I'm trying to find it. I'm just gonna go to our main page because that's the easiest way to find it. We all advise for different portfolios, but we also all have liaison roles for different colleges as well. So we can be a resource to you. So this is our main page, quick and easy. Click meet with an advisor. And it goes through our program portfolios, and then you can schedule an appointment with us there. The other place to find us is in iAdvise. So you can schedule an appointment with any of us via iAdvise to discuss your program interests and goals. I know that was a lot, but I think I answered the bulk of some of the questions that that I saw in the chat. But if there are any other questions for our panelists, any of the advisors, please feel free to put those in the chat, and Rosie will call those out as they come through.
Yeah, and I put this in the chat earlier. If anyone wants to reach out now, I know we're over time and some people probably need to leave. But I put my email, reach out to me for anything. Like I said before, I'm the Study Abroad Ambassador President, so love talking to students about studying abroad and helping them in any way that I can. And if I don't know something, I'll point you in the right direction. I'm gonna put my email again, but thank you guys all for being here. I'm so happy with how this turned out. Thank you, Kyle.